Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with this afternoon's webinar. A couple of introductions first. My name is Charlie Taylor. I'm a CE consultant here at KDLA, and I'm just facilitating today's webinar. Just a couple of housekeeping things I'm sure you all already know, but if you have any technical difficulties during today's presentation, please go ahead and chat those in, and I'll be monitoring the chat and try to help you work any of those out. If you have any questions for Jake, our presenter today, you can go ahead and chat those in as well. If he doesn't catch them, then I'll make sure he gets them, and we'll get your questions answered as we go along. Any comments or anything like that, please feel free to chat. I know he's wanting you guys to interact with him today, so get ready to, get out there, get comfortable talking to each other. So at the end of today's presentation, you'll be able to download a copy of his slides if you'd like to keep them for future reference or share them with your staff or anything, your coworkers. You'll also be getting a certificate of attendance today. I know we have, if I don't have your last name, then if you could please chat it into me. With one person I'll try and get in the chat. I'll need your last name if you'd like to have a certificate. But our presenter for today is Jake Moore. He's the Youth Services Librarian at the Boone County Public Library, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say about programming. So Jake, I'm going to go ahead and mute my phone and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So everyone can hear me, right? We're good. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm a little nervous about doing this. The first time we did this was at a live presentation, so there's a little bit more interaction. So I'm a little nervous about it, but it'll be okay. We're all going on a journey together here. So first of all, like you said, my name is Jake Moore. I'm a youth services librarian with the Boone County Public Library in Boone County, Kentucky, so up north. If you're not aware. But yeah, one of the things that I like, and the reason I did this presentation in the first place was just how much time I spent with coworkers and colleagues kind of commiserating on things that maybe don't go right or things that even did go right, and you kind of sit there and dwell on the little bits and pieces of them. But the point is, when you're a librarian, there's always going to be a program that will end up sucking. It's going to be bad at some point, and the reason that that's important to acknowledge is that it happens to everybody. Anyone who's been working in a library for more than like a month has probably had something go wrong, whether it be a presenter doesn't show up or something you thought would be really great for grades 3 to 5, but in reality was probably better for K to 2. These things they will go wrong. And that's okay. So that's the subtitle of, how to fail and survive. We're all going to do it at some point. So let's just get it out in the open and share it with each other, and it's totally okay. So this is just a warning I put at the beginning that I filter a lot of my information through the vein of pop culture. So you'll get a lot of jokes. If you do not get them, that's totally cool. You can email me later and ask what was that reference or something, and I'll totally answer it because that's fine. So I won't spoil anything, though, because that's not cool. And in fact, with my teens, I've implemented something called shame points, which you get a shame point whenever you spoil something for someone else, be it a movie or a game or a book. And it's worked pretty well to keep them from spoiling stuff, except one teen that insisted on spoiling Jurassic World for everyone. He got a lot of shame points for that. So yes. What do I mean when I say suck? It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad program. It just means something didn't work. In one instance, this just happened fairly recently for me, where we were going to have someone come into our library and do a presentation on how to draw manga and anime style artwork. And the program was fine. The teens loved it. However, at the end of the program, we had all kinds of issues with getting that person paid. And so when I say that sucked, what I mean by that is I felt very bad because she was having trouble getting the money that we rightfully owed her. And then it gave us kind of a black eye in her view. Now, thankfully, she didn't hold it against us, and she is coming back, and it's going to be fantastic again. And I hope, fingers crossed, that we've got all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted that we can indeed get her paid at the right time. But like I said, suck does not mean that it was a bad program. It could be the greatest idea in the world and it might suck one time out of 10. Even if you're doing a frozen program for first grade girls, sometimes it's going to suck, and it could be just something doesn't go right. And this is just, again, 95% pop culture, a little Billy Madison from when we could all be proud of Adam Sandler, and now we cannot. But anyway, so let's go ahead. I'm going to jump up to the next slide here. And so this is where you guys all know this as librarians. The beginning is the end. When you finish a program, you have that amazing high, that great feeling when it went well. We did it, Ron Paul shaking fists. This is where you start planning your next program, basically. You never stop. So when you take that kind of the feeling of a great successful program, it's the best feeling in the world, and you're going to take that into your next program, and it's going to be as good as the last one, right? Obviously, that's what's going to happen, but probably not. So this is something I just want everybody to take a moment, because I'm sure you all have programs in mind already that were just either good or bad. We're going to start with good ones. So think of a program that you've done that was just great that you were a part of. What do you think made it great? And I'll take a minute and we can see some chatting in here. I'll share one while you're thinking of ideas and throwing them out there. One of my favorite things we've done is something we do here every year called the Carnival of Cultures. And at the Carnival of Cultures, it's basically a way to celebrate all of the different groups and ethnicities that we have in our particular area, and it's worked out really well that we have had partnerships with outside groups that come in and share. So we have the Alliance Française out of Cincinnati, the Italian American Association out of Cincinnati as well, the Japan America Association. All of these groups come in and they set up tables, and it makes the entire library turns into this just festive atmosphere, and people come in and we have performances, and it's just all hands on deck, and it just, at the end of that day, you just feel fantastic. So that's my best program, my great program, I would say, and it's just that everybody is working together towards a common goal, and it ends up being very successful. I see a lot of people saying that it's, programs are great when you have participation. Totally true. If there's, yes, age appropriate, of course. Teens often fight making crafty things, but they always end up loving those programs the most. Interesting. So do they fight amongst each other, or do they fight with you that they don't want to do it? Sorry, there's going to be an awkward silence for a moment while I wait for the answer to that, I guess. The MCPL Know-It-All Festival. I'm very interested in that. I will have to look that up at the end of this. My superhero day. Love doing superhero programs, especially when you get the kids to dress up. The teens who help me plan the programs always reject the idea of making things, but then they love it. Interesting. So sometimes they don't know what they want, which is totally true as well. We have issues here, and this is, kind of on the side of that sucked, where our teens will suggest something that they think would be a great idea, and then the ones that suggest it don't even show up. So this great idea they had that they were fighting tooth and nail for doesn't work because they didn't bother to show up. Let's see, regarding pop culture, they're great. Pop culture is always a good one. People love to talk about things they know about. So you might have Doctor Who, you might have all these other things too. But they've learned the most successful programs have almost always had them getting crafty. That's great, yeah. So yes, these are all fantastic ideas. But so I decided I was going to ask some of my colleagues to share their best programs. So the first one was a battle of the bands that a colleague of mine shared. And I'm going to just read the email that this person sent to me when I asked them. So I asked what made it great? What made the Battle of the Bands great? And they said it worked year one because it was a debut program for the region. It was a twist on an American Idol contest that the library had done 5 years earlier, but it was still a cultural trend, that being American Idol. Some other notes, teens had been asking for it and submitting it via our website, social media, and through surveys. Community support, the community donated prizes, and we had local celebrity judges from radio stations and elsewhere. marketing, PR support, graphics played with popular Apple iTunes color scheme and layout, and ultimately it was a family program with families, churches, schools, and others coming in support of their talent. Also, the concert which was held was an after-hours event, basically piggybacking off of our monthly concert series that we had at that library. So these are the things that jumped out to me about what this colleague said with that Battle of the Bands, what made it really successful. It was a twist on American Idol, and up until, like 6 months ago, that was almost like a slam dunk. The other thing was the community was behind it 100%. When you have people donating things like studio time and their time to come in and judge these contestants, you know that you've got the community involved, and that's going to be positive word of mouth for your library. And it was also dreamed up by the teens who then also participated. So you've immediately got buy-in, and with teens, that can be very difficult to have buy-in like that. So those are the things that jumped out about that program, that successful program. Another one that another colleague had was called the Pokemon Party. And there's just a quick narrative that this colleague gave me. A program that worked really well was the Pokemon Party I had a couple summers ago. It worked well because it was a branch-wide program with events and activities for all ages, and we had staff from each department helping out. Pokemon is something that young children and young adults and even older adults are still into, and we had to target all of those ages with our activities. I couldn't have done it without the help of my teen volunteers. And again, so we have the branch effort, everybody's pitching in. It was all ages, so parents could bring their kids, teens felt welcome, kids felt welcome, everybody felt welcome. And you had volunteers. Again, if you have buy-in from the teens, they're going to tell their friends are going to come, maybe their friends will tell their friends. You can get the community buy-in like that, it's going to be successful. So there's a couple things there that we can see made kind of work together to make these programs work out well for the participants and for the librarians, because again, at the end of the day, we want to look good too. We don't want things to go poorly. And this is the other thing we have to deal with, and this is especially true, any of us that are at public libraries, you know, that what generally constitutes success in a library program. Anybody can answer this very quickly. Nobody wants to answer it? All right, the main one that we always see is, I think somebody's typing, I see it, it's coming. Exactly, thank you, Christina. Attendance. Everybody is worried about, you've got to have, this number of people. If you don't have this number of people, it's not a good program, it's not a good program. Now, Deborah, exactly, and that's the other thing. So I say there are many more ways than just attendance, but that's, what we all have to have in the back of our mind. However, you can have attendance, obviously, achievement, maybe they're working towards a common goal or learning a specific skill. Maybe they're creating something. Right now we're doing it's a small Minecraft lab where every time they come in, we're just building a whole city. I think there's only 6 possible people that can participate, but I feel like it's very successful because it's full every time and they are creating content together. And another thing is if they're learning something, maybe you're going to have someone come in and teach them a specific skill or a specific lesson of some kind. That is also a great way to judge the success. Were they successful in learning about something? Not just attendance, even though I know at the state level attendance is so very important. Sometimes you have to turn a blind eye to that and say, are we helping the people that need this program or that want this program? Not everything is going to be 100 people come into your library and take part. Some of it will be they learned something. These 5 people learned something or created something, and that is totally okay. Let me see. So when you're doing a program, the first thing is, like I said before, when you finish the last one, you have to have an idea. So you've got an idea, you've done it, it's finished. We're going to do this Frozen program, right? It's over, we're done. No, just having the idea is only the first step, and this is a step that I always get hung up on because I love coming up with new ideas and sometimes hate following through on them because, well, then you have to, when you finish something, you have to let it go and be judged for what it was instead of what it could have been. That's always difficult for me, and I'm sure other people have that same problem. Like, you want it to be so perfect that by the time you do it, it can almost be ruined. So obviously you didn't just do it. You have a ton of work to do after you've got the idea. So let's go through the logistics of what you have to think about for basically every program. So staffing, who's going to be there? Is it just going to be you? Is it going to be you and another librarian? Is it going to be you and volunteers? Is it going to be you and every other person on staff? If it's going to be a big one. Your budget, maybe you don't have any money for this program, or maybe it's your biggest thing of the year and you've got like $500 or $1,000 to spend on this. We wish we could do that for every program, but that's always an issue, your budget. What time of day are you going to do this program in? If you want to get teens into the library, you're obviously not going to do it at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. They're all in school. You could do it after school. You could do it in the evening. In the evening, though, sometimes kids need rides, and maybe their parents can't pick them up. These are all things that go into planning the logistics of a program. Again, like I said, transportation. Can they even get to the library when you want to do a program? For our teens here, a lot of times we will have them come directly from school just because it's easier on all of the families and on them. There's a large group that walks straight over, and they can come together after school every day with little or no fear of anybody harassing them or anything. And again, it helps those who are a little nervous about coming. They've got a large group walking over from the school that they can feel, they can feel safe and like they're already a part of a group. If you're walking over together, you're going to talk and all this stuff. Competition. Would you want to do a program on a Friday night in the fall? Probably not, because you're going to be competing with high school football. I'm coming at this from, sorry, I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm coming at this mainly from a teen and youth services angle. So, and this would also be true for adults as well. A lot of adults are going to have kids that are in high school that are going to play football, or they're just going to go watch the local team play. I grew up in a small town of about 7,000 people, and every Friday, every single person was there, and on Saturday, you better know the answer to the questions about that game because they're going to ask you. It's just the way it is, but that's something you have to worry about. Is there competition for this program? Is it going to stop people from coming? And I would say most definitely if you're trying to go up against high school football. And interest. Maybe, maybe Doctor Who would have been a great program 6 months ago. I don't know. Do people still like Doctor Who? I'm kind of losing my grip on whether that is popular still. I'll be completely honest. I was never a huge fan of it. Uh-oh. I apologize. I just lost my screen. What's going on?
For some reason, Jake, it looks like it stopped sharing your screen, but yeah,
Yep.
if you just
Let me pull back
again.
in here, see if we can make that happen. Okay, fantastic. Are we back?
Yes, looks great. So I don't know what that was. Sorry about that.
I think it's on my end, and I do apologize for that. All right, so people are saying that, yes, indeed, we still love Doctor Who, even though I never got on board with it. So maybe a Doctor Who program would still work. But what might not work, let me think. What was popular 5-6 years ago? Maybe having a Guitar Hero program, not going to be as popular. Maybe it would be. I want to say folks who are just coming into it but haven't been in the fandom long, or folks who are older who love it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Doctor Who is one of those that, like I said, I've never been a huge fan of, but I have colleagues that are obsessed with it. I also have teens that talk about it all the time. But I haven't seen as much interest from new teens or otherwise. A lot of my teens are currently obsessed with playing Super Smash Brothers, but at the same time, they also like playing Mario Brothers sometime, like original Nintendo. For some reason, that's still fun. But yeah, sometimes things that were popular are no longer popular, and sometimes things that you aren't even, you didn't even catch the bus on are the most popular things in the world, and you better read up on it. But that's another thing you have to think about when you're planning for a program. Who's going to come to this? What interest would there be? And like people are saying, for the example of Doctor Who, maybe you don't just do it for teens. Maybe you do it for teens and young adults. You do all ages, because you could draw in way more people by having it open to adults as well. Another problem you can run into is space. As a good example, has anyone ever heard of the Madcap Puppets? Probably some of you have. For those that don't or haven't, they're they're a puppet group, and they have rather large puppets. Now, at our library system, there are a couple of libraries that can handle them and a couple that cannot. And we tried to have it at one that could not a while ago, and it was a disaster. You have to take into account what you can fit in the space that you have. Madcap puppets, not going to work if you're really small and you don't have a meeting room that can handle a good chunk of people. But you could do something smaller, maybe a smaller puppet group, maybe no puppets at all. Maybe you have a musician that you could have on the main library floor. These are all things that have to take into account. And again, along with interest, like we said before with Doctor Who, maybe the audience is not right for this. If I'm going to have a Doctor Who program and aim it at middle schoolers, that might miss. It might be squarely more high school versus high school and young adult. Or I'm trying to think of other examples that I've had before. But that's something you always have to take together. We all join together at the main library for a summer reading kickoff with the puppets. All ages enjoy them. Definitely. Oh, everybody loves Madcap puppets. But again, sometimes they're too large for some spaces. Is the downside of them. Sorry, I had to take a drink of coffee there. All right. So your audience and how much you know about something. Like I said, I'm not going to throw a Doctor Who program because I don't know enough about it. But I have colleagues that know way more than I do that I will gladly say, that would be fun and I'll help you do it. I will be there 100% on board. You tell me what to do, but it's your show. If somebody wants to run that program. Or Frozen. I've seen the movie, but I'm not exactly an expert. So make sure you're not trying to teach something that you don't know about. And this also goes for topics of more of an academic nature. If you're going to try and teach them some kind of a science lesson, you better make sure you know what you're talking about, even if you're doing it for grades 3 to 5. I've done stuff where they will ask me a question and I have no idea what the answer is because I have researched this one thing and I was hoping to do that, but they want to know something else. So then I will usually be able to say, hey, you know what, after the program, let's go take a look and see if we can find that answer out. And that usually works okay, but sometimes it kind of backfires and you feel like it sucked because you felt like you failed them in some way. But make sure you know what you're talking about or have someone that does. And publicity. Now this is one that everybody can kind of empathize with because publicity is always a fun, fickle thing. So here we have our calendar of events that we distribute to all of our libraries, and we also oh, where's my note that I had for this? Okay, so this is from our head of public relations. So last month we printed 5,200 copies of our newsletter. 2,593 of those were mailed to subscribers at home. 500 were delivered to off-site locations, and 2,107 were picked up at our libraries. So we distribute those everywhere. However, we also use an email list that we send out. We send that to about 7,600 people, and of those 7,600, 1,600 actually opened the email, which is kind of nice to know. And also, every program that we do is sent in a Word document to local media each month. This includes television, newspaper, and web. We also enter every program on a local website called Cincinnati Parent, as well as Cincinnati.com. And we also send our children's programs to Cincinnati Family as well. So we try to get our stuff out there. But what do you kind of see that's missing, especially when we're talking about teens? I can't think of one teen that's going to really see a lot of that. It's just not going to find them. So how do you get it into the teens' hands? Well, social media, yes, we do post on social media. She did not mention that. We utilize Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. We even have a Pinterest page, a YouTube page. Is that all? I think so. So we try to push those out a lot. So yes, that is something that she did not mention. Thank you. But whenever I'm trying to get teens, my one note is you're doing all this print media, you're pushing it out to these websites that no one might ever see. And the one thing we've found when we're talking about publicity is that the teens are much better when you you tell them face to face. So one of the things that I do is to go into all of the schools. If you have a good relationship with the schools, that is one thing that is invaluable, which is that you go in and talk to the kids face to face. Once a month, I go into 3 different schools in the area, 2 middle schools and 1 high school, and I sit there during their lunch and hang out with them and talk to them and share what's going on and advertise the library and give them a face that they can recognize if they do come in. We've seen great increases in our teen programming from this, where we had a program we were just trying to kick off called Teen Night, where once a month we let the kids come in when the library is closed. And we were doing 1, 2, 3, just really low numbers. And then once we got into the schools, it started ticking up to where we're now up to about 30 every month that come in. And that is like the best thing in the world, because 1, it's a Friday night. 2, these teens are choosing to hang out at the library. And 3, they now have a positive view of the library and the people in it that hopefully will stay forever and, when they become adults soon. So those are just some things to think about when you're planning a program. This is the other thing. When you're planning a program, it never actually seems like it's going to happen, right? You just say it and it'll be fine. And all of a sudden, later on, you're going to have to deal with it. There's a podcast I listen to called You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. And there was an episode with Weird Al Yankovic. And he had some very interesting things to say which is he and his wife, whenever they're talking about things they, might not want to do, they look at each other and say, the day will come. And basically what that means is think about this long and hard, because if you say yes to this, you will have to do it. So this is something that I try to think about whenever I'm planning a program. Like, the day will come and you're going to have to do this. Famously, in that same podcast, Al shares how he turned down an endorsement deal and he didn't share the name of it, from a beer company, where they offered him millions upon millions of dollars to do an ad for them. And he said he couldn't do it because, again, he could say yes and take the millions and millions of dollars, but then he would actually have to do that and advertise this beer company that he just didn't feel comfortable doing. That to me is a great example of when you plan a program, always think with the end game in mind that you're going to have to do this one way or the other. So that is when you're way far ahead and it just seems like it's never going to come. So, whoops, I already did this. Sorry. So newsletter, signs of library, word of mouth, our website, press releases. Those are the way that we will advertise and at social media. So now we've planned all this out. We've got everything ready. And then the day of, we're back to where we were. We're running up the hill. And all of a sudden it came. Like I said, when you plan a program, you're going to have to do it, whether you're ready or not. If you say it's going to be on Thursday at 6:30, it's going to be on Thursday at 6:30, whether you are ready or not. So you probably want to make sure you're ready. So then, once you've planned it out, because you've done a good job, you're doing it, and you're going to implement this program. You're going to do it to the best of your knowledge, and everything you've learned because you did all that planning, right? You're going to go sailing with Bill Murray, which is a dream of everybody's, right? Okay, so we've done the program, and it went very, very well. I'm sorry, when it didn't go well. I'm getting myself confused here. So you've done the program, and guess what? It sucked. For whatever reason, it may not have been a big thing, but it felt like a big thing to you. It did not go well. So when it doesn't go well, you feel, well, probably like Rob Schneider feels in real life now. But so let's do what we did before with the programs that were very, very good. So think of one that was just terrible, just for whatever reason. Why was it terrible? And you can go ahead and share that in the chat again. And I'll go ahead and I already shared one earlier regarding that manga anime, but that was just because of afterwards it being a disaster. The one that I'm trying to remember, a really good bad one at this point. Yeah, why did it suck? It was nobody came. Oh, that is the worst feeling, especially, whoa, that is a lot, Marie. What, can I ask what you did with that one? Because I'm very interested. What brought in 283 people? Yep, plans to have a guest speaker, and sometimes they can't make it there. Pirate party. Okay, man, that's pretty intense. Might have to do a pirate party at some point because I would love to have 283 people show up. We had a Guitar Hero night a few years ago, had good attendance, but 2 kids hogged the guitars. Yeah, and you'll find that with some video game programs. If there's some kids that are really good at it, they will just own the system. Luckily with me, I've got a pretty good group that's here every week, and they know how I roll with it. So they know that if people are hogging it, then they need to step off and let others jump in. But yeah, that's totally true. We had one where we were going to do a tournament in a particular game, and this is something the kids had been asking for, and we actually had to get permission from our library board because it was going to be in the game Call of Duty, which, if you don't know, is a first-person shooter game. So we did it just for high school kids, and they had to have permission from their parents with explicit, what happens in the game written on there and all that stuff. And we ended up having 4 people, which is not a tournament in any way. That is a night at home. You may as well not come. And it didn't go well. And then the next week they were asking, when are we doing another one? The kids that didn't show up. So, and you know that once you do one and it doesn't have a good attendance, you're probably not going to do it again very much. Okay, my story has come twice, still ghost stories for Halloween. The first time we ended up having to reschedule after Halloween and we only had 8. The next year before Halloween, oh, that's rough. And that sounds like it would be awesome. Yep, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Unable to pinpoint the best time for our target audience, or kids just weren't feeling performer, or kids were in the library but the parents didn't want them to go. We're talking Legos, but parental buying, yes. Oh, that's incredibly important too. We have that same problem with some of our story times, where we'll have parents who bring their kids into the library during our story times, and we'll invite them in, tell them what's going on, and they'll say, no, they're fine. All right. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your day. But yeah, that's exactly. I understand your misery completely. So back to my colleagues again. I'll share their stories too. So let's see. One of my colleagues, when I asked what was one that was bad and why, another program that did not work was a teen lock-in. Now, if anyone here has done a teen lock-in, those are usually kind of slam dunks. Kids love them, and they just get to run around, and that's about it. Oh wow, that is a rough one. You cannot plan for that. Well, I guess you can, but who knew that was going to happen? That is a rough one. But anyway, so teen lock-ins are awesome usually, and I will commiserate with my colleague because my last lock-in that I did for just middle schoolers was a bit of a rough one. We had one teen that just wasn't on board with playing well with others, and ended up kind of ruining the night for all of the librarians, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but he was just very disrespectful the whole time. Started off on the wrong foot, and had to have a talk with his guardian about the behavior, and it was not good. But this person says it didn't work because the staff helping did not want to follow instructions or follow the rules set out for the program. Have any of you guys had that problem where it wasn't the people that were the problem, but the staff that was supposed to be helping you? I have thankfully never had that happen. I work with some great people that will jump every hurdle to help me. But this colleague of mine said that, so now she does not do lock-ins anymore because it just soured them so much on doing it, and to know that she would not have the backup of her colleagues, and that's rough. That would be terrible, and I would be beyond furious with my colleagues if that were to happen to me. The other colleague that I had talked to, so this colleague is going to talk about the same program, that Battle of the Bands that we talked about earlier. So after a while, we did this for a few years. staff began to burn out and it was a lot of time to invest in one program, the marketing and branding changed, lost the consistency we had and the iconic look of the previous advertisements. The time of year started to just fall apart. Fall became too busy because of working around high school sports and library conferences. We tried moving it to summer, but it was hard to pull off because then families were on vacation and no one was used to coming to it. So the Battle of the Bands, part 2. So staff got burned out, the marketing changed, and it didn't really evolve to meet the needs of the people. Like I said, back then, doing an American Idol-esque singing or songwriting competition would be great, but now probably not as much. There are other shows that have taken the place that you might want to emulate. When the marketing changes, people don't recognize it as the same thing, so you've got to work extra hard to try and make that work out. And when your staff gets burned out, it's kind of game over. Unfortunately, like I said before, the first 2 programs were great because the staff was on board and they're ready to do whatever you need. Once they've been doing it for a while and churning out program after program, you can get burned out very quickly. And then with the other one, so the teen lock-in, the staff wouldn't follow the rules. Whoops, I'm going to back that up. Like I said before, that right there is a kiss of death, and I would be furious. There would be a lot of follow-up meetings regarding that program, and I hope, like I said, none of you have had to go through that. I see Yolanda said that she had not, so thankfully, yes, exactly. Thankfully, I've never had to do that either, because if the staff isn't helping you when they're supposed to be, then you're kind of sunk. All right, so this is the feeling of a failed program, when a program sucked. You're going to walk away, hang your head in shame, and the Charlie Brown Christmas music is playing. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that slide. I just really love that GIF. So what did you do wrong? Because everybody who's had a program that failed has asked themselves this exact question. What did I do wrong? What made that fail? And the answer is maybe nothing. So let's go back and let's check and see what our planning might have had done. So staffing, did I have enough staff? Maybe I could have used one more person. Okay, well then next time add a person, or think about that more next time. Budget, did we have enough money to really pull this off? You'd be, like somebody said, you spent $325 for the 5 people, and that's a rough one. But if you were to spend that on something else that you could have spent $10 on and had the same 5 people, that would have felt great. It's just a matter of how it works out. And I'm not saying that that was your fault in any way. That was, one of those act of God situations where a tree branch falls on your car and you're like, well, nothing I could do about that one. Was the time of day right? Did you do it at the right time? And again, I'll go back to are you going to do it on a Friday night in the fall? No, because you're going to run right up against high school football and no one's going to show up and you're going to feel awful and no one will feel sorry for you because it's high school football. Transportation, can the kids even get there? Or adults at that point? Either way, if you have a lot of people that walk and you're far enough away that they would need a way to get there, sometimes don't plan on it being super popular. The competition goes straight hand in hand with the time of day being that football thing, the interest. Is it something people even care about anymore? And maybe the answer is no, and you just have to go, well, it was cool for a while. My Dawson's Creek program is probably not going to bring in 50 people. Exactly. Thank you, Cindy. They ride the bus straight to the library. So you don't have to worry about whether they can get there or not. That's the same reason I do an after-school program once a week. And I tell them, it technically starts at 3:15. I just tell them, if you come right after school, I'll be here set up. So I start setting up about 2:45. I'm ready for them by 3. They usually get there around 3:05. Meet them where they are. Don't make it as easy as possible for them. And this is one thing I will say. Having it regularly, especially with teens, they are creatures of habit. As much as you or I are, they are creatures of habit, and they will, yes, oh my goodness, thank you, Cindy. Serve some snacks, always a good choice. For teens especially, have food there, they will eat it up. and both literally and metaphorically. But yes, we have patrons ask to have programs. We call and let them know. Yep, and that there is nothing you can do about that one, Lori, because you're not going to, the next time they sign up for a program, tell them no. You want to keep encouraging them to come. And I kind of have, in my mind, my rule of thumb is that if I have, say, 30 people signed up for a program, I'm guessing 15 to 20 may show up. It's just the way it goes. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you don't. We had one program where we had 19 people on a wait list, and 7 total show up. Exactly. Yes, Steve, there's always that other way, too, where you'd have, and teens are notoriously difficult to get to sign up for programs. We've had programs where we had 5 sign up and then 35 show up. They just don't like to sign up for whatever reason, and somehow they just show up. So these are all things, again, space. Did you have enough space to run this program? Back to Madcap Puppets. If you're trying to do it and you don't have the space, it's going to be a bad time. And the audience you're going after. Again, Doctor Who for middle schoolers, not a good idea. Well, maybe it is. Maybe your group would have it, but most middle schoolers that I talk to aren't super into Doctor Who anymore. It's mostly high schoolers and adults that I've seen. Again, not a giant Whovian, so if I'm wrong, people please correct me, but don't bite my head off. I'm just speaking from my personal experience here. Oh, my coffee has gotten cold. Because Capaldi is old. Yep, exactly. And again, make sure you know what you're talking about. I'm not going to do a program about stargazing because that's not my thing, and I don't know enough to really sound smart enough about it. And I can always call the, for me, thankfully, very close to Cincinnati, I can always call the Cincinnati Observatory and have one of them come out and tell us everything we want to know about stars. I was drafted into doing a program that I have no knowledge or real interest in, so I'm trying to change it into something else. Very interesting. Is it something that's going to be easily kind of evolved into whatever you want? Or is it strictly like, no, you're doing a program on the movie Aladdin? Kind of hard to make that something different. I'm sorry, I'm just waiting to see if Sandra will respond really quick, because I'm very interested. I'll skip on. And the publicity. Make sure that you've got it out there and you're getting it into the hands of people that need to know. There's also, somebody had mentioned social media. There's also the difference in who consumes what social media. For instance, teens today care less about face group. You're changing Forever Young Adult Book Club into Adult Coloring Club. Oh, interesting. Yes, Snapchat. People are loving Snapchat now. We've toyed with the idea of opening that up here, but we are currently still using Instagram, which is good enough. Yes, Cindy, also a great idea. I lean on my regular teens all the time and tell them, look, you tell me what you want to do and we'll try to do it. Last year we did has anybody here ever seen Epic Mealtime on YouTube? You can just type yes really quick if you have. If you haven't, the basic premise is it's a group of guys, and there's a few girls that are in it too, but they make giant things that are just, abominations of food. I mean, we're talking like thousands upon thousands of calories just to see if they can. So one time with, they had Jay Leno on the program. This is one I always remember. And they took a metal toolbox, wrapped it in bacon, and made a lasagna out of the middle. Is that right? Am I remembering that right? But that's what they do. And then they try it out and eat it, and it's all very entertaining. So one of my kids said, we want to try and do that. So I said, okay, let's figure out a way we can do that. And we ended up having a program where they picked their own ingredients and just made a slop of food that I then had to try and eat, which wasn't great. I will admit it was some of the worst stuff I've ever had because one of the groups, instead of trying to make something that resembled food, just dumped everything into a bowl and stirred, which included a whole thing of sprinkles. So it just tasted like sugar. But it was fun. They all really had a good time doing it. But yeah, lean on your teens. They will tell you what they want to do, and hopefully they will come to it as well, etc. And again, as you go back through and you find something that may have gone better, maybe it's a different time, maybe it's a different night, maybe you have to do it at, a different branch even if you have multiple branches in your system. That's okay. You can fix it. And if you can do it, awesome. Next time you try, it might be better. Or maybe, you look at it and go, maybe there's not that much to save in the first place. But yeah, so don't beat yourself up if something doesn't go well. The way I like to kind of end this is talking about something. Has anyone ever heard of what's called Imposter Syndrome? It's very simple. A collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist even in face of an information that indicates that the opposite is true. So basically you're saying, I'm not good enough at what I do, even though you are good enough at what you do and you do it well every other day of the week, 364 days of the year. The one day you did it poorly was when this program happened, and now you're beating yourself up for the next day and a half. It's a real thing. So I will not lie to you. I have that feeling all the time. This is a quote that I love. I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out. What's amazing about this quote is who wrote it, which is Maya Angelou. So if ever you're feeling like you are terrible at what you do, remember that Maya Angelou also felt that she did not know at all what she was doing at any time when she's doing it. Yes, seriously, this beautiful human being right here said that she ran a game on everybody. So don't feel alone. We all have that same feeling. And again, this is the important thing. Always, always, always remember when you do well. The victories are the way you keep yourself moving forward. You're your own worst critic, and you will beat yourself into oblivion if you don't let yourself, one, do poorly sometimes, and two, remember that you are doing very well, and you're doing your job, and you're doing exactly what you should be doing. So remember that feeling of we did it. Always remember that feeling. Always shake your fist in the air with Ron Paul and the strobe lights behind him. All right, we got a few minutes left, so if you have any questions, just want to talk to me about library or other things, feel free to send me an email. If you want to follow me on Twitter or anything, that has actually changed. My new Twitter handle is @alibrarian, AMA, and that stands for Ask Me Anything. You're definitely free to send me tweets. It's been a rough week because we just found out that the Red Sox play-by-play man is no longer going to be with us next year, so I'm kind of flustered about that. So my Twitter might be talking about that a little bit. Yes, thank you, Charlie. Does anybody have any questions or things they just want to share? Like I said, we got some time. Oh, hey, Barbara Briggs is now following me. That was quick. Thank you, Barbara. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I can stick around here for a few more minutes if you want to hang out and wait, or like I said, send me an email. But again, remember the victories. Always just remember your planning and do what you can. Sometimes things are going to go poorly, and there's no reason to beat yourself up over it.
Jake, I just want to hop on here real quick before people start leaving and give them the opportunity to download your slides. If anybody would like to save these and look at them again, as I said, share them with your colleagues if you want. The files pod I just brought up on the screen. Just click on the presentation inside the pod and then click the download file button, and it'll walk you through saving the slides to your computer. But we'll still like you said, hang out for a couple minutes, and please chat in questions for Jake if you have any. If not, when you're ready to exit, you can click that X in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Thank you all very much for attending today. Thank you very much to Jake. I think it was great, very, very informative, all kinds of very entertaining for sure.
Thank you.
Was that What About Bob?
Oh yeah, it was.
Okay, with Bill Burr. I love that movie. I haven't seen it in forever.
There's nothing more satisfying when people remember the references and the gifts.
Oh, I love it.
I'm a huge Bill Murray fan. As
Me too. Me too. Yes, and Deborah, everyone will be getting a certificate of attendance. I'll get that out in an email hopefully today or tomorrow.
Yolanda, we've actually had we used to do what we called a 90s party. We haven't done it in a while because we're sort of getting to the point where none of the teens will remember that at all. But when we did the 90s party, there's a meme out there that's James Vanderbeek crying, and it's things from the 90s that, kids today won't remember, like I just rented a videotape, but the person before me forgot to rewind it. We tried doing a 00s party too, or an aughts party, but they seem to just move away from it. But yeah, so we had a whole wall of James Vanderbeek 90s problems. Yeah, I called the girl and her parents answered. Fantastic. So yeah, we've done that. We also had the wall of where are they now? And every time we did it, we would have a trivia contest. One was we'd play themes from 90s shows, so like Full House and Batman the Animated Series and Doug and Seinfeld and all these different shows to see how many people would actually remember them. It was a whole lot of fun, but they just stopped coming after a couple of years. Oh, we'd also bring old video game consoles. So I have a whole bunch of old ones at home because that's, I guess, the kind of person I am. So I have a Sega Genesis and a Nintendo 64 and a Game Boy, and somebody donated an NES to the library here, so we have that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. That actually would work really well as an adult program. I wonder, you could almost do like a technology graveyard and let them come and play with old technology. But yeah, those are a lot of fun. For the library's 40th anniversary, we also did every decade the library's been open. So we did the 70s, followed by the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Not very well attended, which is kind of what killed the decade themed parties, but they were a lot of fun to plan, I will say that. And you're right, adults probably would have enjoyed those a lot.
I think that sounds great. I totally would have come to this.
Yeah, right, exactly. Who wouldn't want to come and like fire up the old Nintendo and play some Duck Hunt? Although you'd have to find an old TV because it doesn't work with HD TVs.
Oh, there's the problem.
There is a problem. Yeah, you're gonna run into that one. But you could still play Tetris and like Mario Brothers, and pull out like Battletoads and see if anybody can beat the one stage.
There you go. I think Sandra's typing in about the adult coloring club. I was interested to hear more about that too.
Yeah, definitely. No, Stevie, no one can. Although, what was I saw something that later on somebody figured out you didn't have to beat it, or maybe I'm remembering that wrong. That there was absolutely no point. You could just end up skipping it somehow. I was a Sega kid growing up. We had a Sega Genesis, so I was never super into Nintendo culture. Like I've beaten exactly 2 Zelda games in my lifetime, and as a 32-year-old male, that's like way too few. All right, it is still in the planning stages, but I hope to start in January with adult coloring books becoming so popular. I myself use it as a way to get rid of stress. Okay, so just be sort of a pop-in, hang out, and talk time while coloring, or would it be? Oh, that'd be fantastic. That sounds like it would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
We have a group that does that, but it's a knitting club, and it's basically the same idea. And we've got like 30 people from all ages, from like 22-year-olds to 70, 80-year-olds, and they just hang out. Drop-ins, and where folks come and sit together. It hasn't been well attended we like, but we're going to shift it towards your artist. Yes. Cindy, feel no guilt. Anybody, if I say an idea and you like it, take it. If you feel like you need to give me credit, go ahead, but you don't have to. I'm all about sharing ideas, and if it's a good idea, everyone should try to use it. Information should be free. Oh, okay, a young artist. I was going to say, I don't know what your artist is. Okay. Yeah, that can be cool. We have a manga and anime club here that it's obviously specifically focuses those groups, but it's all teens that love that art and like to sit, and some of them sit and draw, some of them write, and it's just a way for them to connect with other people that like similar things. We've toyed with the idea of having like a graphic novel book club, but haven't figured out a way to kind of make it work, because if it's going to be graphic novels, there's 2 ways we feel like you can go. which is one is you go to hardcore graphic novel readers who are going to make fun of me for not knowing everything about Green Lantern, or you go for people that are very, very low knowledge and pick a starting point, and hopefully you can go from there. But if those people don't care already, are they going to come? So we're toying with ideas and seeing what we can come up with. If anybody has any thoughts on that, I would love to hear them. There's some really great groups on Facebook. Okay. Are you saying for the young artist or for like manga or for graphic novel reading? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm actually really interested in that. It seems very interesting. It could be cool to include graphic novels that don't fall under. Yes, and that's one of the things we were toying with, especially well, or do a bit of a mix because you'll eventually run out of very, I guess, generally popular titles, and you don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable right away. So you do kind of a mix. Maybe one month you would do Mouse, and then the next month you might do like the new Ultimate Spider-Man with Miles Morales, which is really good if you've not read it. And then yeah, jump back to some Neil Gaiman, and then jump back and do like Avengers versus X-Men, and you can just keep going back and forth because that gives you a nice base knowledge. And there's some really really good work under the Marvel and DC umbrella, but there's also great stuff outside of that. I mean, you've got Watchmen, and you've got even the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen stuff. There's, I don't know if anybody's read My Friend Dahmer, but that's a crazy good graphic novel, pretty intense. It's about a guy who was friends with Jeffrey Dahmer when he was a teenager. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can read. I figure, yeah, that would be cool. I would like to see that. Yeah, and we did talk about that too with the popular YA titles, because we don't see as many people checking out the graphic novel versions. Most of them seem to just go straight for like, let's see, I'm trying to think of one now that we've seen people like the Maximum Ride stuff that they put into graphic novel. I don't see many people grabbing those. They're just grabbing the titles. Yeah, Percy Jackson. Do you like those? I haven't read the graphic novel version, so I couldn't say for sure. But yeah, we've toyed around with that as well. But again, it's sort of what kind of group would draw the most people and have the most interest? Because again, we need to have those all-powerful numbers in some ways. The illustrations are really nice. These kind of titles might draw in reluctant readers. Ah, that's a good point. Very good point. Might be intimidated by it otherwise. Lock and Key, yep. But that wouldn't be yeah. Yeah, that is very, very true. And the younger you get, it's a bit difficult to keep it going. Even it gets more and more difficult because the teens, especially if you're talking about high school teens, there's a lot you could do. Um, you're probably not going to do, like was it Fun Home, but you could do some more adult themed without too much that's graphic. But there's most of the stuff that's in the DC Marvel universe is going to be will squarely fit into that sort of teen vibe very easily, and a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about here. Yeah, the younger ones, if you're getting middle school and lower, it's going to be more and more difficult to find age-appropriate stuff. Oh yeah, Adventure Time, regular show graphic novels are so good. Even the Bob's Burgers one are really good. Like they're very middle school humor. I really enjoy reading them. If you didn't get a chance, see if you have any leftover from Free Comic Book Day if you were a part of that, because there was a Bob's Burgers issue that was really funny, and it can quickly draw people in if you like the show, which I do. If you don't like the show, you're probably not going to like the graphic novel. Let's be honest. Um, yeah, it's the same label, I believe. But Adventure Time is great, and everyone loves it, no matter what. And regular show, if you've seen the show Workaholics, I liken regular show to Workaholics for middle schoolers, because that seems like the sort of storylines they tell, with a little more fantasy involved.
Okay, I'm not going to stop the discussion, but this is
Okay.
Charlie. No, you're doing fine. Everybody keep chatting if you'd like to. I just wanted to say it's 3 o'clock, so we're officially ending the webinar. I'm going to stop recording, but if y'all have more stuff you'd like to chat into Jay, please go ahead.
And again, you're more than welcome to email me or hit me up on Twitter. Um, You're very welcome, everybody, for real. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. I hope it was at least, if not super informative, at least therapeutic in some ways.
Get
That's
out all
that's
those
kind of
mails.
what I go for. It's 50% both, I think. And it's just fun to get together with other librarians and talk about this stuff, because so often, especially if you work at a smaller system, if you're programming for a specific age group, you feel like a boat out at sea and no one's there to help. So. Yeah, thank you all for coming, for real.
Sorry, Stevie, not trying to make you get back. Well, thank you all very much for coming today. And Jake, thank you so much for being willing to do this and sharing your slides with us. Looks like you picked up
Thank
another
you.
follower.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And were you comfortable with